Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your questions 7 days a week about media. Let's go ahead and jump into those questions. Bill, what do we have?
Our first question comes this morning from David Brady in New York City. And David wonders, a number of films in my collection have subtitle files that don't line up. Since the .srt file is text with timestamps, is there an easy way to calculate an offset and rewrite all the timestamp values?
Good. Courtney?
Well, what you could do is if the timestamps are in a separate column or separated by some value like a tab or comma delimited, extract them all or load them into a comma delimited file into a spreadsheet, and then set the column format of the column to time, figure out what the offset is, and then add that offset to every figure in the column, and then paste it back into the CSV and take it back into the file again. It's probably 0.1% because it's the difference between, non-pull down and pull down, difference between SMPTE time code, which runs at 5994 instead of 60. So that would be 0.1%. So change it by 0.1% and that might line up.
Good, Bill.
Yeah, the other thing for me is, having done a bit of subtitling, particularly for things for distribution, the U.S. standards for subtitles, the official ones, the SMPTE subtitles that go in line 21, the vertical interval, and that, they have a fixed position. Everything else seems to be floating, and I've gotten a lot of instructions from people saying, can you put it a little higher or a little lower as more different kinds of uses for these video files come up? I'm thinking specifically of video encapsulated into other types of program, whether it's internet files for use on YouTube and the rest of those things. The positioning seems to be, particularly globally, less strict than it was when I was coming up, when you knew exactly where the subtitles were because it was part of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and they were very specific as to where they go. So I think it's going to get worse rather than better in terms of where people position subtitles, and they're going to be all over the place. So I applaud you, David, for trying to get them all in the same place, but I'm not sure it's going to survive the sending out the files into the wild. My 2 cents anyway.
Go, Ronnie.
You can use DaVinci for this. It's kind of easy. You just import your movie, put it on the timeline, then you import your SRT file, and you can have every title that is visible on the timeline or the text line, and then you just mark everyone and nudge them here and there. And if you need to do individual adjustment, that's just as easy. Just remember that you don't have to render the movie when you're ending your production or finish your production. You just save your SRT resource as an external file, and then you're done.
Good, Mickey.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. Any NLE, if you already have one and you're very comfortable operating an NLE, I would use that import SRT and nudge it, as Ronnie mentioned, and then re-export the SRT file. I'm sure there are, basic consumer applications that can do this fairly easily. But if you're already comfortable with an NLE and already have one, Resolve is free. Then I'd go that route.
Yeah, I would Resolve and Final Cut will do that as well, and as will Premiere. But Final Cut has probably the easiest one as far as laying out. You just see all the captions there, and you can grab all of them and just nudge them back and forth. I find that the Resolve one is good. It's a little bit more cumbersome, so it depends on what you're. But that often is the case. more tools to affect it, but a little heavier to do it. So if you're just trying to do a quick move, you may find Final Cut to be easier if you have a Mac, if you're using it on a Mac. But that's going to work, and there's a lot of dedicated tools for captioning, and you can do a lot of other things. But being able to just nudge and then watch, and then nudge and then watch is a lot faster than trying to take the SRT out somewhere else. Next question.
Next question comes to us from Marina Dupapopoulos in Situate, looking for Windows software similar to Loopback on Macs that can internally route audio from different programs to different outputs. We want to monitor SplashTop in headphones and send presentation audio to a sound system. Dante or Mac not an option.
And this was asked before, but we figured we'd let it come back in again today so that we could, because of our audio experts. Go ahead, Marty.
All right, so the probably the most often used software for this is from VB Audio. There are two programs that they have. One is called a Voice Meter, and there's a couple of different flavors or different sizes with different numbers of inputs. They have hardware outputs that you can route to your hardware. There are virtual outputs that you can route to different programs in your computer. So it's virtual inputs and outputs and hardware inputs and outputs. It's very comprehensive. Takes a bit of a learning curve to figure out how things work in this thing, but it works very well. And it also includes the ability to send audio over your network to other devices such as computers. So it's pretty handy about that. The other program that they have is called Matrix, and it essentially does the same thing. You have various kinds of inputs from your hardware and your software, and then it routes to outputs on your hardware and software. It may be a bit easier to understand because it's an actual matrix, but the interface takes a little bit of getting used to because it's quite very, very, very comprehensive. But it works very well. It's inexpensive and quite reliable.
Good, Courtney.
Yep, I was going to recommend the same. Voice Meter, they have all this. When people refer to the fruity software, they have Voice Meter and then Voice Meter Banana and Potato. Potato is more like a full function mixer with virtual inputs and outputs. And then, as the one Marty was mentioning, is Matrix is for routing. So VB Audio software, it's quite comprehensive and comes in a variety of fruits and vegetables.
Next question.
Next question comes to us from Douglas Carmichael. Neumann has introduced RIME, R-I-M-E, which simulates 714 Dolby Atmos monitoring on their NDH headphones. Has anyone worked with it or a similar product, and how well does it work in practice? And he's got a link there to the Neumann website.
Good, Ronnie.
Yeah, I wish this is a really cool concept, and this is a workflow, and this is what we are talking about. So it's basically a workflow that is applied inside your DAW, and as all these plugins are doing this a little bit different, I have to admit that I have a soft spot for the way Neumann does stuff, and not only microphones. And the only thing I can say to this is that I really look forward to having more than just my 2 K-edge speakers. So I have started doing this saving to have these K-edge up in my home studio to be able to listen to this through speakers. And of course, doing this through headphones is also a nice thing to do. And I'm pretty sure there is other in the panel that can talk more about this.
Good, Mickey.
Yeah. If you're mixing or creating content in immersive formats like Dolby Atmos, you really should be monitoring in Atmos with discrete speakers so that you know what you're mixing. In situations where in a pinch you need to do a quick fix or maybe a pre-dub, a pre-mix, I would go ahead and use the binaural re-rendering that's built into the Atmos renderers. The Atmos renderer is made by Dolby, who makes the creation, the encoding, the transmission, and the exhibition systems that are used to play back Dolby Atmos. So I would rather trust Dolby with their binaural re-render built into their rendering engines as opposed to a third party.
Next question.
Ronnie Hofsoy, here on the panel from Tromsø, Norway, was wondering about getting drum mics for toms. He says local renters have lots of Sennheiser E904s, but I'm looking to get some for rental that are slightly better without going overboard, mostly for live stage and maybe a studio job now and then.
Good, Marty.
Well, there are a number of really good drum microphones in general. Lots of manufacturers out there. If you're looking for something better, there are other microphones from Sennheiser including where'd it go? Including the MD421 compact. So the MD421 is a famous microphone that has been used for decades on vocals and instruments and all kinds of things. They recently came out with a compact version that looks like a drum. It is a drum microphone. It's very small, compact, comes on a mount. I had a picture of it here, but sorry. Here it is. Maybe I can put this up here. All right, so it's a drum microphone. Yeah, sorry. Other brands you can look at are Lewitt and Earthworks, and many others.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I was going to mention the 421 as well, but it really depends, Ronnie, on what type of genre and also the style of playing of the drummer that you're trying to capture. Different mics that work well with different genres. There are people that put U87s on toms. That might not work well for metal, but it might work well for something like jazz. Different mics, different sounds. But if you want something that should be in your or everyone's mic closet, I agree. Get a 421 or the new 421 compact. Great sounding mics, very versatile. Could use it on drums, from snares to toms. You can use it on vocals. You can use it on guitar cabinets. It's just a very nice all-rounder microphone. So 421's certainly something to have in your mic locker.
Good, Ronnie.
Yeah, we have a big selection of microphones as well, but tom microphones tend to be the one we have available most of the times. So just listening to both of you guys recommending the 421 compact is actually very comforting. That was the one I was actually looking at, and we didn't speak about this beforehand, so that's nice to hear.
I got Mickey.
Just real quick, another one to add to that list of must-haves. SM57. It's a nice go-to, like, default microphone for stuff like this.
Next question.
Kent in Madison, Ohio. Up next, when using an audio mixer in a studio for podcasting live or recorded, do you have any recommendations on which brand to look at?
Good, Mickey.
Yeah, it totally depends on what the requirements are. There are podcasts that are simple, 2 mics, and that's it. There are podcasts that, hey, Tiny Desk concert, they released that as a podcast as well. So it varies from use case to use case. In general, within the typical budget range of podcasts, I probably take a look at the Yamaha DM3 or possibly the SQ series from Allen and Heath. And on the lower end of things, probably a Rodecaster Pro 2.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to recommend. It's the one I'm talking to you now on, is the Rodecaster Pro 2, because it is designed specifically for the podcaster. And unlike the higher end models that Mickey was mentioning, it has things that are designed specifically for podcasting, like built-in Bluetooth. It has 4 headphone outputs that are individually adjustable, and they're nice and color-coded here. It has 4 mic preamps that are pretty quiet. It has, like I say, Bluetooth and virtual sound inputs that you can use here on the additional channels to mix in. And it has the sound effects, which is those pads on the right that you can load annoying sounds that you can feed in at any time. So it's really designed. I like it because I can adjust the sound outputs. I have one of the headphone outputs routed to a speaker, so I can fade that up and down so I can listen without my in-ear monitors. And I can adjust levels and routing. It's gotten a lot better since it first came out. When it first came out, it was missing a few tools, and they have updated the firmware 3 or 4 times, and now it is quite comprehensive, has great output routing and input routing, does mix minus, and a lot of the crazy things that you need to do in a podcast where you've got live callers calling in or people connecting over the internet to your podcast. So take that into account, and you're going to have to figure out, you can do that with the other mixers, but you're going to have to figure it out and use the aux sends to do the mix minuses, etc.
Good, Ronnie.
We also use the Sound Devices MixPre series of preamps as a mixer. And I would suggest that you look into your budget and see what is your primary use. Is this going to be where you sit and actually adjust volumes live when you are doing the recording yourself, or do you have a additional AV tech that is doing the mixing, or an audio guy? Depending on this, I would say that if you're going to be mostly not touching it, you need to also think of auto mixing, which the mixers that Miki talked about. I'm not sure if the Rode Procaster has auto mixer, but the DM3 and SQ series from Allen Heath definitely have it, and we use that all the time. So if we're going to do this as a recording, we tend to use the MixPre. It's easy to set up, just get in all the microphones and get done with it, and mix everything afterwards. That's a really good preamp and really good for that use. There is also other mixes like Allen Heath the CQ series, which is a little bit on the lower end on the preamps, but has a lot of functionality and can also do multi-stems recording. So you can have ISO recording on every microphones and USB interface and all that. So for just a lower amount of money.
Go ahead, Miki.
Yeah, I agree. For recording, strictly recording, I think the products from Sound Devices are great. The MixPre or even the 8 series, or if you want to look for like a used 6 series or 7 series, love the preamps of the 7 series. Those would be great for recording, but I would advise against using a field recorder for broadcast purposes. It doesn't have EQ, it doesn't have dynamics processing in it, which are tools that you would want for a mix that's going out live to broadcast that people actually be listening to.
Yeah, and I will say that I've used the MixPres or some version of Sound Devices since before podcast had the name. so when we were recording roundtables, and so I lean towards those pretty heavily. Next question.
Walt Palmer in Lewis, Delaware. Up next, does Starlink provide a robust enough platform for a stable Zoom connection?
Go ahead, Miki.
Starlink on its own, negative. Starlink has to jump from satellite to satellite as things move around. So you would not want to rely solely on a single Starlink connection for Zoom. And add to that, of course, other elements in your environment, such as weather, that can affect a satellite connection. You may be able to get away with maybe Starlink bonded with cellular, or Starlink bonded with another type of connection, but a single Starlink connection alone, that I would not design for that.
Good, Ronnie.
Yeah, I was actually doing that with a Starlink from a trawler. Everyone on the panel and maybe a few other also know that we are pretty far north, so we're at the same degrees as the northern coast of Alaska. And when I say that we had a trawler that was far north of that, using Starlink, it's almost unbelievable. But we had they coming in, they were using a phone with a microphone attachment. They were using local Wi-Fi on the trawler and went into Zoom that went out on Starlink. And that was a perfect thing. Seeing the people on the bridge live from almost where you couldn't survive, and see them reporting live through Zoom was a delight. It was really, really cool. But the problem was that, as Mika said, they had to change satellite. So that happened just 2 minutes before they were going live on stage. And fortunately, we had the second phone up as well, and we could easily change over and still go live. So we had to delay the production 30 seconds.
Good, Courtney.
Yeah, we tried this, I think, recently with our NAB coverage here at office hours and after hours. They did our NAB wrap-up from the roof of a hotel in Vegas, and Jeff Keighley, I think, brought his Starlink, and they used that for a connection on the roof. Of course, they were on the roof, and they were in Las Vegas. And I think they had some pretty clear skies, but it seemed to work okay. There were a few dropouts here and there. It's not completely bulletproof, but it could get you through in a pinch, and it can work as a backup. But it seemed to be pretty stable throughout. Alex, were you there and to see what Jeff had set up?
I wasn't there. I had to leave before that. I mean, I just think the Starlink is the trashification of internet. Like it's just like we just, because we have Starlink, we're not going to get fiber, because it's all easy. And so now we have something that's easy, that's not really reliable. I would never use Starlink. After I own a Starlink, I tested it. I had great visions for it. And I would never use it as more than a backup to my live view, another input to a live view to kind of shore up some of the cell things. But that's about the most I would do with a Starlink. It breaks up all the time. Like it is. So, I mean, when I say all the time, within every 20 to 30 minutes, I'm going to see a drop, and I can't run shows like that. So I don't know. Some people can run shows like that. I guess if you're just lucky and it's a big news item or something like that. But it's just trash. Like, it's just so frustrating that we're not going to get what we should be getting in the internet. As Americans, we should have fiber to every house. We did that with phone. We did that with plumbing. We did it with power. We could do it with fiber, and then it would make a huge difference for rural communities and smaller communities. But instead, we're going to have this trash. That's my opinion of Starlink. Next question.
Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington, USA, mic'd up a kid's Easter performance at the House of Worship. Wanted to keep it simple and brought a Sound Devices MixPre-D and two AT835 cardioid, 853, cardioid mics. As I gained up, I kept hitting feedback. What could have been done to make it sound better?
Good, Marty.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not a simple situation. There's so many layers to this in houses of worship. First of all, let's get to the core of things. Miking up a choir properly, especially when you have a couple of different rows of people. So a very common way to do this is to put a microphone 3 feet above the front row and 3 feet. It's 3 feet in front of the people in the front row, 3 feet above the head of the people in the back row. And what this does is it sort of puts everybody at an equal distance to the microphone from the front row to the rear row, so that you don't have anybody closer than anybody else. Second thing is that kids' choirs don't tend to be as loud as adult choirs, and so that requires more gain. And if you run into feedback, then you may need to notch out certain frequencies that are key to that feedback. And you want to do this, of course, during rehearsals or in a break when there aren't any people in the room. Just bring up the microphone gain until it starts feeding back, find that frequency, and put a sharp notch in the EQ on that microphone. However, really basic and more broadly is making sure that your loudspeaker system is tuned properly and has those notches put into the system tuning for the most common microphone locations on the chancel. One of the problems there is that in many churches, the chancel, which is the stage, is thrust out into the room, and any place to mount microphones, to mount loudspeakers on a wall is behind where the microphones are, which is always a problem. So this makes it even more necessary to make sure that the loudspeakers are tuned properly and notched out for feedback. And if you can put an automatic feedback detector in, that's even better. I want to be pretty choosy as to which one you use, whether it's hardware or software, but they can work very well. So, it's not an easy thing to do, but we have to do it all the time.
Yeah, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I wholly agree with Marty that the first thing you should do is work with physics. Make sure that your mics and also your choir are behind the house PA system, the loudspeaker, so that you don't have the speakers blasting right back into the mic, generating that feedback loop. And also any monitors that may be around, try to get those monitors lower so that you're increasing your gain before feedback with the signal that's hitting your house PA system. There are loudspeakers in the room, so hopefully there is a system processor in there that you can use to do the notching of the frequencies that start to.
I think we might have lost Mickey there for a second. We'll see if he comes back in the middle of that important answer there. A quick reminder: if you want to ask questions and vote on questions and chat about the questions, you can use Mukana for that. You can jump into officehours.global/join, sign up there, and you'll get emails and things will start to and you'll be able to join from there. You'll see little buttons down there for Discord, for Mukana. Mickey, did you have anything else you wanted to say? We lost you there for a second.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Lastly, if you're really struggling with your feedback, get your choir a lot closer to those mics. Maybe the staggered choir positioning might not work, but say if you get the mics, have your choir create a circle or a semicircle really close to the mics. That might help you get enough level without turning up the gain too much.
Next question.
Next one comes from Joe in Cleveland, Ohio, and Joe says the ATEM output goes to the video hub. The video hub can send video out to many sources. Does the video hub also send out the audio?
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yes, it does. And you shouldn't only be doing the pre-configured one. If you get the ATEM Tao's MixEffects, you can have full control over the audio routing that is taking place inside your ATEM. Just be sure to know what you're doing and be careful about that. It provides a very detailed level of routing of the audio channels, depending, of course, on the switcher you have. ATEM also released the absolutely off-the-press root effect app that is actually doing the routing stuff that you can't do with other software, or almost impossible to do with other manual. You can, of course, program things in your Stream Deck and use it for routing. But the root effect is something that you probably should dive into and see if it can solve even further advanced workflows with both audio and video.
Good, Mickey.
Yeah, by default, SDI routers just pass on the SDI information at times with reclocking in the pipeline, but they just pass through the SDI signals, not only audio, not only video, but also any other data such as like closed captioning. There are higher end SDI video routers that have processing built in, but the video hubs from Blackmagic design are very simple and just pass through the signal.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, what everybody else said. You can embed up to, I think, 32 channels of audio in each video, SDI video signal.
I think it's 16. I don't think it goes over 16.
They're 16. Normal SDI is set to 32, but they may be only set to 16.
I don't think I've ever seen SDI go over 16. Now the Matty will do 16,
depending
32.
Depending on the speed of the SDI signal. Bit depth.
No, I've never seen it over 16.
Bit rate.
Yeah.
Well, the standard is a little higher. Maybe they only build it to 16. The other thing to remember is you're going to get the whatever 16 channels are that are embedded in that particular video. So each video signal that you switch to will have its own mix and its own set of audio channels. So if you want to distribute a mix, let's say, of your audio to all your outputs, you might have to disembed that audio from the different video inputs, mix it, and then re-embed it into your one that you're sending out, so that you make sure you have all the audio signals going out that you want, and not just the ones from the camera or the SDI source that you're selecting.
Route effect. When did that come out? Did I just miss that, or is that brand new? Is it brand new? Oh my gosh. Route effect. Routeeffect.docs.routeeffect.com from Adam Tao. Okay. All right. That's cool.
I know where Alex is going to have his.
Yeah, I was like, what is that? Next question.
Next question comes from Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas. What opportunities do high-fidelity wireless microphones like Shure's MoveMic 2 offer for capturing pristine audio in live sports streaming? And how can professionals mitigate interference in crowded RF environments?
Go ahead, Mickey.
So I wouldn't personally consider the MoveMic 2 as a high fidelity system. These are consumer systems, and each of the single units that holds both a transmitter and also the microphone itself is a fraction of the cost of even just a single channel of professional wireless system. Even just the mic element would be more expensive than the whole MoveMic 2 system. In crowded RF environments, you would typically have an RF team that is led by the RF coordinator, along with people that manage RF amongst, like, say, press that come in and other people that come in bringing RF gear, including video departments and also communications departments, security departments. They manage the entire RF spectrum in the venue and its vicinity, and along with the approval of regulatory bodies, say such as the FCC in the U.S., they also have the right to shut down any RF transmission that is not registered in their system. So that's how they're able to control everything, all the RF noise that's happening in the environment. They keep track of this throughout the event and actively look for, and shut down these rogue RF transmitters.
Yeah, when we get into a very complicated, like a political convention or some of these other things where there's just hundreds and hundreds of channels that need to be used, the negotiation for these frequencies starts months in advance. So we're talking to the frequency coordinators or the freaks, and talking to them about what we need and what we have, and usually I'm small enough, or the work that I do is small enough that we're kind of on the tail end. So we mostly just ask for what's available and get the transmitters that can manage that. One of the things that's made it a lot easier is a lot of these transmitters now, these transmission systems have very wide, a wide band. So it used to be we sat in blocks. And so it was very hard because they tell you have block 21, but you don't have block 21 transmitters. And so you have to go figure that out. And now you pretty much have almost everything that's available to you in many of the new modern systems. And then you just find the frequencies that make sense. Next question.
Next one comes from Angelo Jack in Brooklyn. May have to do with an earlier topic here. Has anyone on the panel taken a look at this from MixEffects, and how might it improve our ATEM workflow experience? And they've got YouTube.
I thought that it was like, did I miss this? But it's only 19 hours old. So I missed it for 19 hours. Go ahead, Ronnie. You can give us a little bit of an overview.
Yeah, so basically you missed it.
19 hours ago. I missed it for 19 hours. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm lucky to be in another time zone. So Root Effect is basically MixEffects, but for routing. It is made by our friend Adam Toe. It's really cool. I haven't started using it yet. I've just started looking into it, and it is amazing what Adam can actually get out of the product's APIs by just, I don't know if he's reverse engineering it or if he has some deep friends deep inside the Blackmagic developer community. Probably has.
I think he's figuring it all out himself. I don't think he's getting a lot of support. So I think that is, and I think from my understanding is there's a little bit of both actually looking at the communication that's going on as well as using the API.
Yeah, he's probably doing the same. So this is what we are actually talking about. This is a overpowered app that controls everything that you have on your video routers, and it also can dig into the switchers. Those switchers that has this capability. The bigger ones do have some of the same APIs. So it's multiple routing views. You can visualize and you can watch this, and you can also template them, so you can load different setups depending on what configuration you are normally using. This is something we used to do with Stream Decks and BitFocus Companion, but it's much easier. And the overview, the visual overview you get in the app from ATEM is absolutely amazing. And this just being the first version, I can't imagine what the later ones will provide us with of functionality. So I'm looking forward to following this.
And by the way, if you want to get that link, I'm having trouble finding it because it's so new. So maybe you want to find the YouTube link that's in the Q&A here.
You can also go to docs.routeeffect.com. So that's the,
okay, there you go.
Yeah, so that'll take you there, overview of it. Next question.
Next comes David Brady in New York City. NPR's Tiny Desk, how we record. Are these techniques, quote, sound?
Good,
David Brady says.
Yeah, they've been pretty much using the same miking techniques and capture techniques since they started, starting with the Sennheiser 418. And I know Alex isn't a fan of the sound of Tiny Desk, but I personally really like I'm a fan of, specifically for Tiny Desk, the very raw, unproduced sound, because it just lets me listen to the artist's performances and appreciate the performance as opposed to being hindered by or having processing and mixing in the way of that performance. So I like how they capture and mix Tiny Desk.
There you go. Next question.
John Napier, New Zealand. Regarding a cloud VMix question earlier, what are some suggested ways of getting multiple channels of audio in and out of the cloud machines, and then between cloud machines with very low latency? Hardware options, he notes, are preferred.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I think with most of the people that produce broadcasts in the cloud, NDI is a big one of the major tools that they use to get signals in and out and around their cloud systems. So I think NDI, and if you're sending audio from on-prem up to the cloud, NDI bridge may help with that. Other solutions that are popular are things like Dante Connect and also SRT, wherein you can send a lot of channels back and forth with SRT. And also WebRTC solutions are also popular as well, especially for people that are using, that are, say, for monitoring purposes, WebRTC is a popular solution people use.
If you want to ask questions and you don't want to log into anything, you just want to throw that question in 24/7, you can also go to askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global, and throw the question in. There won't be any login. You can just put your name, your location, and your question. Askofficehours.global. Next question.
Kent in Madison, Ohio says, would it be possible to see a start-to-finish setup? Example, a conference room event with TV screens for people who can't see the stage. Thanks.
We should. It's one of those things that the hard part is that with the start to finish setup, we're usually in the middle of it. So unless we have time to put up a time lapse or something like that, you don't really get to see us putting the whole thing together to make that actually happen. But we'll try to figure that out. Next question.
Next question comes from Paul Wallace, Austin, Texas. What do you think of this setup using a Husky Workbench to create a single-desk YouTube creator studio, especially the undermounting? And they've got a YouTube link there.
I think a lot about undermounting. I just never do it because it becomes a thing. Like, it looks really cool and it makes a good video, but I find that it's really problematic when I want to do something with it. So I very rarely undermount almost anything. YouTubers I see do this, and again, I think it makes a good YouTube video. But I think when you look at it over time, dealing with a lot of undermounted gear is pretty annoying. And so and I speak as someone who has done a fair bit of that. Next question.
Next one comes from David Brady in New York again. A Blackmagic Camera for Android 2.1 adds support for remotely controlling Blackmagic PYXIS and Blackmagic URSA Cine cameras. Can the iOS version do this? And if so, why is the Android development slower to market?
I think that I don't know whether, I have to admit, I've never used the Blackmagic Camera to control the URSAs. I have controlled the URSAs. I control a lot of URSAs with the Bluetooth Plus or whatever, the Blackmagic Bluetooth Plus, which locks into it once you're within about 20 feet of the camera, and you can make pretty much every adjustment that you need. So I've never thought of using the Blackmagic Camera for that. My guess is that it is iOS. For this development, my understanding is the iOS version with the libraries that it has are a little easier to develop for. So they tend to go out first, and it's a little bit faster for them to hit it out there. And also, I believe that my understanding is that the crossover between the Blackmagic user base and their market for the phones, there's a much higher number of iPhone users than there are Android users, which is probably why the priority goes that direction. Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, I may not agree with the second part of that, but the reason that Android usually takes longer to develop is because with iOS, you're developing for one hardware platform. And with Android, there are hundreds. And so you have to make sure and test and make sure that it works on Samsung. It makes sure it works on Google phones. It makes sure it works on, Huawei phones. There are a lot of flavors of Android, and there's only, supposedly one flavor of iOS, depending upon which version you're running, what year it is. But if you're using the latest version, you're usually only dealing with a single hardware platform, two, including the tablets and the phones. But it's a lot tougher for Android because testing takes a lot longer across all the different hardware platforms, although it is 80% of the portable market.
It is 80% of the portable market. I don't know if you want to go on a film set. I don't know if it's quite 80%. Next question.
Roscoe Jones. Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana says, in recording audio for post, we aim for a normalized, quote unquote, recording level. Is this the same way to treat a digital mixer? Should we be trying to get the hottest signal in by upping the preamp and thus doing the A to D conversion at the highest levels?
Go ahead, Marty.
Well, since you added treating a digital mixer, am I to assume that we're comparing recording analog to recording digital? It's a very different thing to do, mostly because of how the meters that you're looking at respond to audio. And this is what we refer to as meter ballistics. So, a VU meter is a very slow-moving meter that measures audio level over a certain amount of time. And then when we get into digital meters, there are meters that respond at various rates, responding over various amounts of time. Like a peak reading meter would sample the audio very frequently, and so it's always looking for the highest level. But a momentary meter or an intermediate meter would look at the level over a couple of seconds, perhaps, and give you the average level. So it would respond slower, and it would not show you the highest peaks, which are very brief. I did a studio shoot the other day where I was taking a microphone into a MixPre and then feeding it into an URSA camera. And when I sent out tone from the mixer and made sure the meters everywhere were at -18 on that tone, then we recorded voice, and the meters on the MixPre were showing very good level with just occasional peaks when somebody was speaking, just barely touching those limiters. When you look at the meters on the camera, they actually look low. This is a difference in the way that the meters are reacting to the audio. It doesn't necessarily mean that the audio level that's being recorded is low. It just means that the meters are different than the ones on the meters on the camera are different than the ones on the MixPre. And that's the one that I'm going to go with, ones on the MixPre, because that's my source meters. When you're recording for post, you want to establish with your editor if you want to do dynamics reduction, which means controlling the difference between somebody speaking or somebody who's saying something rather softly and somebody who's purposely popping or accentuating their voice. Now, these represent peaks, and there's a large difference in level that can be between them. And when you do dynamics control using something like compression, you can reduce those and then keep the average level up on your recording. So sometimes you want to do that on the front end when you're recording. Sometimes you want to do that in post on the back end. There are various reasons to do either, and that's something you want to establish with your editor before you do the shoot.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, for when you're recording audio for that will be running through post production, say like dialogue for a film or an interview for a documentary, you don't want normalization at all. You want your preamps, your head amps, to be at the same level all throughout, and in order to have consistent level for your ISOs. Now, saying that, I'm going to use the full scale here, digital scale. For me, I like having my ISOs right around with a VU meter on a digital scale, right around minus 30 dBFS, with the peaks probably hitting around minus 20 to minus 15 dBFS. That gives me a lot of headroom in case there's a sudden loud transient that comes in, and anything that goes over the headroom that I have available for me will then be caught by the limiters. I don't want to be anywhere near the limiters for normal speech. When you're with the bit depths that we're working with nowadays, 24-bit and in some cases 32-bit float, you're no longer having to worry about being within the noise floor of tape hiss. So having ample amounts of headroom above you is totally achievable with virtually zero impact on your noise floor, because we have so much dynamic range with 24-bit. But yeah, I don't want any normalization happening at the capture stage. I want to ride the fader in post, and I don't want any adjustments happening to my ISOs. On your mix track, sure, the production mix track, mix it so that it sounds excellent from the location sound on your location mix. Fast turnaround projects will appreciate that because they can use the production mix. Your editor will appreciate that because they have something nice to listen to while they're doing the picture cut. But none of that should affect the ISOs that you deliver to post.
Next question.
Douglas Carmichael up next. Has anyone had experience with SPL headphone amps and monitor controllers like the 2Control? And he's got a link.
This is what he's talking about here. I actually have never. Not only have I never used one, I've never seen one in the wild. so it's so I guess when you say has anyone, I'm not sure. But I'm sure that it looks refined enough that someone must be using it. But we haven't seen it. Next question.
Cindy Drozde, Erie, Colorado. Just heard Mickey's comment about wireless mic systems with mic and transmitter in one. What's an example of a professional wireless mic system? She uses a Rode Wireless GoII. What is better?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, there's a whole level far above that price-wise. Electrosonics is probably one of the more famous ones. Sony, of course, makes some. Electrosonics has been making them from the analog days and into the hybrid days, which are hybrid digital and analog transmission. And these are up in the VHF licensed area. You may have to have a license to operate these, depending upon where you are. And they now make digital wireless as well that are all digital, and the hybrid, which is analog and over digital transmission. These are diversity. They have dual receivers so that you don't get dropouts when the signal bounces off something and arrives at the receiver slightly out of phase. It can cause those little hits, those little cancellations. And in a digital microphone like your Rode Go, you'll hear the sound just drop out for a second and then come back. In the analog days, you just hear a sound like that, which would be a digital hit. And the dual receiver types diversity helps eliminate that by positioning the antennas half a wavelength apart usually to get it would switch to the other receiver when there's a dropout in one from the multipath. But those transmitters and receivers, I haven't bought them in a while. Mickey can probably update me on the prices. You're going to talk, for a single channel, you can talk $4,000 to $6,000 for a single channel of a high-end professional wireless microphones.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah. Courtney, that's correct. You're looking about, well, sound with Lectrosonics. They're older digital hybrid series, the 400 series. You can get a transmitter and receiver for about 2,500 or 3,000 for the entry level stuff. But yeah, you're looking at 4 to 6,000 US per channel. As you go up to the higher end stuff, especially the digital ones. I use a lot of Lectrosonics products. That's our mainstay for forever, and have dozens of channels of Lectrosonics. And these are our money makers right now. But we have over the past 2 years been slowly shifting to Sound Devices A20 systems because of first off, all our Lectrosonics are currently digital hybrid, not full digital systems. So moving over to the Sound Devices A20s gives us a fully digital system. And the big plus side for me is being able to remotely control the transmitters from the receiver and from the mixer/recorder. Aside from the A20 and the Lectrosonic stuff, there's also Shure Accent Digital, which is another staple in more on the event side of things, not so much film and TV production world. But yeah, in the event side, you'll see a lot more Shure Accent Digital systems.
And one of the things to look at, especially for someone like you, Cindy, who have, you're in a controlled environment, you're in the same environment all the time. If it works, it works, and so if you're constantly working and you're not seeing hits, then your wireless Go could work well. I have the wireless Go's. I also have the DJIs. If I'm using them and I'm throwing 10 feet, 15 feet, I'm not trying to compete with other wireless systems. I am in an environment that I know that doesn't change. All of those things, these mics work actually fairly well. It's when you start to actually have to dance with whatever's happening is where you have to really start to pay attention to that. If what we do here is valuable to you, there's a couple different ways that you can contribute to what we're doing. Of course, you can like and subscribe. It helps us constantly move that and make sure more people know that we're here. You can also volunteer. You can go to officehours.global/volunteer. If you're a production person and you'd like to join this panel, you can go to officehours.global/panelist and sign up there. But or go to volunteer and sign up there first, and then we'll talk to you about panelists. And of course, you can donate money as well. officehours.global/donate. Let's go ahead and jump into the next question.
Paul Wallace, Austin, Texas. What movies, films, YouTube channels, and so forth have been produced in your immediate geographic region, and how does your area rank as a pro-media environment?
Go ahead, Marty.
Well, I'm in the Washington, D.C. market, so what's not produced here? We don't have a lot of shooting stages, sound stages here that are large enough to shoot indoors and things. But for externals, we have film production here. We have corporate production, nonprofit production, news, entertainment, all kinds of things happen in this market. And it includes both Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, Northern Virginia. Then down in Southern Virginia, there's the Richmond market, and there is a big soundstage down that way. There's also Baltimore, which is really close, which is a whole other thing than Washington, D.C., curiously, even though it's less than an hour away. And this is a pretty hotbed of a market. There's lots and lots and lots of work here.
Go ahead, Bill.
Hey, I'm in San Diego, which is kind of Los Angeles adjacent. We're south of them. So there's been a lot of things. All the Top Gun movies were shot at Miramar, the Air Force Base down here. Almost Famous, notoriously, was shot in this area. And Veronica Mars and Simon & Simon. There's been a lot of TV episodics down here just because we're a little bit south, still adjacent to all the services from Los Angeles, but a little bit off the beaten path. So not quite as much craziness as the LA market.
Good, Courtney.
And of course, I'm in Hollywood, where, of course, a lot of movies are made, but not anymore. A lot of them are probably more movies are made in Atlanta these days because of all the runaway production and the tax incentives. But television shows, when other places, I used to live in Austin, and they used to say that Austin is the film capital of Texas. We're going to attract all these movies that shoot here. And I worked in that market for quite a while, and 2 or 3 movies might be shot in Austin a year, and 2 or 200 or 300 movies maybe shot in Los Angeles, at any one time, and maybe in production at any one time. So a lot of television shows are still produced here in Los Angeles because we have the stages and the audiences, because it is a tourist mecca for people that are interested in the film and television world. A lot of YouTubers are here too because they want to, they have aspirations to move into professional film and television. There's a lot of them around Los Angeles as well. A lot of famous YouTubers are here. So all kinds of people are in this market, but because it attracts the tourists here, there is a lot of production that goes on specifically around television and film production.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, there have been a good number of larger films that have been shot here, including Born Legacy was shot here. There's a lot of reality shows that like shooting here because a bunch of them, and also films as well, when they're looking for like some tropical island or deserted tropical island, they like shooting in this region. But apart from principal photography, there's a lot of post-production that happens here, from sound post to VFX, especially VFX. A lot of VFX is for major films or major productions are done here. So not necessarily principal photography, but in the post side of things, there's a good amount of work that gets outsourced over here.
Next question.
Next question comes to us from David Brady in New York City. Mika Yellotec has a slick table stand for both XLR and USB mics, weighted base underslug arm. Buy or beware?
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, it's interesting. Certainly a nice looking stand, and knowing Yellotec, they make good products. I do wish though that the arm that actually where the microphone connects to were maybe twice as long as it is, because that would be very, very useful for folks that don't, say, if you put this on a desk, for folks that don't always sit directly at the edge of the desk and maybe lean back a little, having a longer arm would help with that.
Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment as well. Yellotec has an excellent reputation for quality hardware, and their pricing sort of reflects that. But this particular product is a tabletop desktop stand, but the arm is rather short. So if you need your desktop for keyboard or writing surface or anything else, it could get in the way. I do wish it was a little bit longer, so that would be, my caution.
Go ahead, Bill.
And I'm going to lose on this battle, but I do wish that products who are trying to get their marketing out there would stop putting these giant logos on things. I originally saw, when I opened up the website, the white version of this, and that huge Yellotec and gigantic. I understand what they're doing. They want to establish their reputation, but it just means for me the first thing I have to do is pull out a bunch of gaffer's tape, so I'm not ended up branding everything I do with their logo. It's just a personal peeve of mine.
Yeah, and for a little less money, this one has a lot of the same form factor, not exactly the same form factor. This is made by Rode, and it's one of the ones that I've started to play with. Same thing, the arm is a little bit shorter, but it is, for us, a better solution than, even though this arm could be a little longer, it's still a better solution than a mic stand with it coming straight up the middle, as far as getting this a little bit closer to the guest. And so I was pretty excited about this when it came out. It took a long time for it to actually start shipping, but Rode makes this, and I don't think I can't remember how much it is, but it's like $70 or $80, not $250. So and the form factor is similar if you don't need to have that wiring built in. Next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. If mixing is the summation of a million small moves, when might a large move be the right thing to do?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, whenever you're transitioning between one scene and another scene, you do a crossfade, which is a large move between everything in one channel to everything in another channel. That would be a large move if that's what you're talking about. I'm not sure exactly what the purpose of this question is, but Yeah, if you're just riding gain, it's a series of small moves. You're bringing down everybody who's not speaking slightly and up everybody who is speaking. So it favors one person over another to eliminate the crosstalk between microphones in a live type situation or in a recorded type situation to eliminate the room noise. But if you're if you're transitioning from one location to another location, of course, that would be a big move, because everything goes to zero on one side and everything comes up on the other side.
Mickey?
Yeah, I had to think through as well what exactly you mean by this question. But following Courtney's logic, certainly like transitioning between scenes, you're moving, VCAs, DCAs, like doing large changes to go from one location to another. Again, with the context of narrative, say if you have a sound effects heavy film or a sound effects heavy scene, having everything play loud means nothing is loud, nothing feels loud, nothing stands out. So in those situations, you're often like having a split second of this sound effect, kill that, bring out another sound effect, so that everything has their own individual time to shine in a sound effects heavy scene, and that's how you're able to get a more dynamic sounding mix. You're not playing everything up; you're just doing one element at a time, so that you're able to have a nice you're able to hear everything at a specific point in time that you decide as the recording mixer.
Last question, it's a little timely.
Robert A. Olber, Houston, Texas. Good morning or whatever. IndyCar is streaming test sessions today from Indianapolis, I guess. Anybody from this esteemed group working on that, and would love to see some behind the scenes.
I don't know. There's 10,000 people watching right now, so it hasn't even started yet. So I don't know anybody that's working on this right now. It'll be interesting to see if they use any other camera shots or they have any car shots. I do have some experience streaming from the cars at the Sonoma Raceway, and it is no small feat. The problem is the cars, a lot of your wireless will track well at 25 or 30 miles an hour. You get up to 150 miles an hour, and jumping from one receiver to another is a thing. And so there's only 3G Wireless is one of the few companies that does that well. And so they're probably involved somewhere. So I know some of the folks that might be involved, but we'll see if we can reach out and get some more information.
Plus, sound is crazy in those race car things. Yep. I did quarter midgets once, and I thought my ears would bleed. Yeah, exactly. Let alone Indy.
It's loud.
Loud, yeah.
Thanks so much for all the great questions. We did get to all the questions today, so we got through them all. Thank you so much to the producers for asking those and driving this conversation. Really, it is your questions and your votes and your interactions that make a big difference here every single day, 7 days a week. So we really appreciate your input. Thank you to the panelists. It's so great to have you. We can't do this without you, and a lot of great discussion and answers today. So we really appreciate your input. And thanks to the incredible team who puts this together. There is a small village that makes sure that the live stream goes out every day, that it's edited, that the audio is working, that the panelists are ready, that we're managing all the bits and pieces that have to be managed. It's incredible. And we do it every single day, 7 days a week. And there's just so many people on the team that make that possible, and really appreciate your contribution. Today, if we'd done this, the fall traversal, if we had done this in person, we would have traveled 36,000 miles. That's 57,000 kilometers, and that is 283 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into after hours.
Fun
I always see,
show.
I see 10,000 people watching something that hasn't even started yet. I'm like, what is their day job? Like you're just sitting here watching something that isn't even doing anything. I'm sure it's on some extra
watching
screen.
The parking lot outside.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they have it like me. It's like some screen off to the side, whenever they're ready. We'll start to hear
my older brother's friend was a pit crew boss in Indy, and they said it's insane, the engineering that goes into those cars.
I have to admit, I'm not a big race car person, but I am looking forward to the movie F1. The clips, the trailers from that, and I'm like, okay.
I'm waiting for the sequel F2 sequel.
F2.5, F2.75.
Yeah, exactly. All right, see you, everybody. Bye.